What's up, party people?
Hello, hello, hello.
Lav and I would like to thank you for joining us for the third episode of our male sexual assault. We're going to wrap up what ended up becoming a series. Um, but before I go into the information I have, Lav brought to my attention a case that has just come up. Um, And so she's gonna talk about that first for a second, because she told me about it and it fits perfectly in this, and it's something that needs to be investigated.
So I think I'm going to save some of the details and maybe do a full episode on the case. So I'm not going to give out names or anything, but
Oh no, just give us like
um so
like an idea.
everyone remembers Vanessa Gillian and the
Mhm.
Me Too movement. So actually during that time frame another soldier in the army went missing. The army said that he was AWOL, and they never even notified the family. They never even called the family to see if he was there. He just quit talking to the family. One, not returning phone calls, not returning text messages. They couldn't get hold of him, so they reached out to the command about 45 days later. And that's when they find out that he has been missing for I think 36 days when the family had called.
Oh my gosh.
They'd refused to investigate because they said he just went AWOL.
But there's
Uh,
information. I know we're not gonna reveal it because I do want to do an episode on this. But
so
there's information that have come up.
so in this year in 2024, they have now that he is actually deceased, and the army is still refusing to acknowledge it, that and still saying that he is just AWOL. And
Shame
there's
on you guys.
actually information of like rape and sexual assault against him and things like that. And so I'm curious to see what more comes out about it, because it's kind of like new evidence is kind of coming out more now that he's been found. And so I'm curious to see what actually comes out about it. But
Yeah, I am too now. I appreciate you bringing that case and bringing it to me because I hadn't heard about it.
I had never heard
And
about it either. It completely got like squashed because this was ongoing during um the Me Too movement. And even though it's very almost exactly the same circumstances, but because it's a man, nobody wanted to listen.
that's what we had talked about in the second episode is the same thing is the Me Too movement should have not ever been defined by gender, and it is. And again, like I said, even the moniker is the last O is the symbol for female. They could do that and then off to the side do the symbol for male. This movement that really has brought a lot of cases to light and a lot of people are getting justice, but our men are being left behind.
Mhm.
And it already takes an enormous amount of courage to come forward as a male, as a female, but I think it takes more as a guy
Right. And it does,
because
because it's a double-edged sword for them. They're
yeah,
having to admit that they weren't strong enough and they let something like this happen to them, and that's a wound to their ego, and then
mhm.
having to like actually suffer the trauma of what actually happened to them. So it's, you know, a double whammy that really women don't have to deal with. We will never know that
No,
that side of things.
no, we will never know their struggle. I mean, yes, women who are victims and survivors of sexual assault, yes, we do have our own struggle. We have our trauma. But it is nothing, and I even say this with the LGBTQ plus community. Females within our community have an easier time, and that's because of the way society has perpetrated the female members of that community. There's still some kickback about certain, um, like gender being gender fluid or being more butch, more masculine. But men in the LGBTQ plus community, they get a bad rap.
Right.
They are treated worse than gay women or queer women ever have been.
Right.
And then to have a man who identifies as a heterosexual man that is a survivor of a sexual assault, regardless of the gender of his perpetrator, he's got to come forward with what happened. And just like you said, the stereotypical responses. Well, why didn't you fight her off? You're a big, strong, or fight him off. You're a big, strong man. You must
Right.
have liked it. I mean, you got an erection. You must have wanted it. Such bullshit. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. We need to protect our men, our boys.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You know, I know people who say, well, men are the protectors. It's a man's job to protect and provide for his family and his loved ones. Um, I don't agree with that. And it's, we need to take care of each other.
Mm.
So, our heterosexual brothers and sisters, they need to protect each other. If your man is there for you, you need to be there for him. If he goes to the mat for you, you need to go to the mat for him.
Right. I agree. That should be partnership,
And
not a.
and it shouldn't there should never be gender assigned roles
Mm-hmm.
in anything,
Right.
because
I
then
think.
that's how we get this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's exactly what I was just going to say. I think that's why this is even an issue.
yeah, because people need to have a box, and they have to be able to fit things that are happening in their lives in that box to understand it. And if they don't, then they want to fight it. They want to hate it. They want to sweep it under the rug.
Right.
Um, so I'm going to put a trigger warning on this. We are going to be talking about sexual assault. We're going to be talking about pedophilia. We're going to be talking about hebephilia. And it's going to be heavy. And so if this isn't for you, that's okay. We've got some pretty hilarious cryptid and other episodes that are out there and are coming out. Um, Go enjoy one of those, you
Right.
know. Um,
Those are always good.
yeah, because these kind of topics aren't for everybody, and that's okay.
And it's stressful for us to have to research it and then talk about it. And
And especially because you and I are parents of, you have a 13-year-old who
hmm
just, you know, it's the beginning of the teenage years. I have a 17-year-old. He is at the end of his teenage years. And it frightens me, the things that are happening within our military, because I respect our military and our law enforcement so much. But it scares me that I have a sailor, I have a naval officer in the making,
hmm
and I have to let him go. And I have to trust that he will come back to me. And it's hard and it's scary. But all we can do is we arm them and
with knowledge.
knowledge, um, with understanding, with acceptance, with
Right.
love.
Right.
Um, and that's all we can do. And we bring this to you guys so that you will recognize the signs where you maybe will have a different opinion. Um, as we said in the second episode, my opinion about my sexual assault changed,
Right.
um, because I didn't see it that way for many years. And then,
Well, and
rec-
we've talked about it, I think, in a different episode,
yeah,
and
we
your
did.
opinion was even different then.
Yeah. Because that teenage undeveloped brain felt very different than my now mature and you know educated brain.
Right.
And I think becoming a parent really does that too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I thought I was cool because I was 16, I was having sex with an adult, I was cool
Right.
until I had a 16-year-old, and it's not cool anymore.
Right. You don't want him to have sex with an adult.
No, we we don't want them to go through our hardships in anything. We don't want them to financially struggle. We don't want them to struggle with acceptance. We don't want them to have to make the hard decisions. We want to do it for them because we've already walked down that road,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't.
So scary world out there. I'm like not knowing, you know? It's like
Yeah.
at what point am I not going to be here anymore to protect them?
At what point do I have to let them go? Like they said, spread their wings and fly. I have to let him go because I want him to achieve his goals. I want him to be a good, productive, strong member of society. And yeah, and especially hearing about this soldier, that is my greatest fear. That is a fear that keeps me up at night sometimes, is having a loved one go missing and I don't know where they are and I can't find
You
them.
know, there was another story. Maybe I'll look him up too. That it was a man, a soldier, that went missing before the Me Too movement. And when they were looking for Vanessa, they found his body.
Wow.
And he came from Fort Hood. He was at the same
Hmm.
place, but he had been missing like a year or something before her. And when they were looking for her, they found his body. And I really can't remember anything else about him. So I'll have to look it up.
How do you feel? You are a retired soldier. How do you feel about, and yes, it's a different branch of the military, but it's still the government, it's still military. How do you feel about the fact that our brothers and sisters in arms have been able to be assaulted and murdered and go missing and nobody cares? Or it
So
feels, maybe they do, but it feels like nobody cares.
the military, and and I hate to say it, but there's so many people. There's so many different aspects. There's so many different cultures and beliefs and everything melded together.
Mhm.
And you get good with bad. There's people that are there that were running away from troubled lives. They were running away from the police. Some of them are there because that was the only option they had. It was either that or go to prison.
Yeah.
Those people don't
Yeah.
change.
No, and unfortunately, being from a law enforcement family, that's something that we've talked about, we've experienced. There's been, you know, uh, criminals that have committed some pretty serious crimes that were told, look, you can go do military service
Mhm.
or you can go to prison for a certain amount of years.
Right. And those are the people that come in initially, that those like specific types of people that kind of they feel like they have a one up on everybody else.
Mm.
And so they're the confident ones. In the beginning, when you're first enlisted and you're first there, your everything is so confusing. Everything is so just turned upside down on itself. And so you find that one confident person that seems like they know what's going on. And you just do everything that they tell you to do. And you follow them.
Yeah, it's kind of like college.
And
Almost the same concept.
yeah.
You
And
you're new, you're afraid, you're alone,
mhm.
and you look to a higher classman because they got their shit together, or they make you think they've got their shit together.
Right. Right. And I mean, to be real honest, I think I mean, the people in the military are just numbers, so they don't care at all
Yeah,
about anybody in the military. But what they do care about is their secrets being exposed.
of course.
And so any little thing that is going to cause the public to say, "Hey, what's going on in the army?" or "What's going on in the navy?" or whatever, they
Yeah.
they 100% don't want any sort of anybody to question anything. So even the
Mhm.
smallest things get pushed under the rug. And that
Well,
creates a snowball effect. So small things are
mhm.
getting pushed under the rug, and then they keep developing bigger problems and just snowball out of control.
Yeah. Look at Vietnam. Look at our soldiers that that survived and came back from Vietnam.
Mhm.
Quite a few of them, uh, it completely wrecked their lives.
Right.
And those that did come back that were still safe and sane were ignored and denied quite a bit of services and that respect that they deserved. And it was because it came the stories came back to America of soldiers raping villagers and killing them and burning. And this is a small percentage of people. The same percentage of people that are raping, assaulting, and killing our active military members or their units, their
Mhm.
unit mates. It's a small percentage, but it's still present. It's
Right.
still there.
Well, and if you really if I mean like so the whole concept behind any of this is the power.
I don't
And what is the sole purpose of the military?
power and control.
Exactly. So it's there's to me there's no question that the individual people have been mind washed enough to want that power and control, because it's ultimately everyone in the military is brainwashed to have that same mentality, otherwise it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, because if you don't, you're not going to pick up an M16 or larger, go to a foreign country and let somebody shoot at you.
Right.
You're not going to do it.
Right.
And I, correct me if I'm wrong on this, um, but you're in a unit with all the same gender, but there are other units that are stationed where you are. So let's say in like overseas or let's just use deployment. You're deployed, you're away from your loved ones, and I forgive me if this sounds vulgar, but you get horny. People, I mean, I had a partner that was in the Air Force, and she said that it wouldn't even be the sex, it would just be the closeness, the
Mhm.
desire to have physical contact
Contact,
with
yeah,
somebody that was not, an assault, that was not you having to fight.
right, and that's true. I mean, it is, like, and it's gonna be real weird considering what we're talking about, but and, now with women being on front lines, like, there's women and men mixed no matter what you're doing nowadays,
Thank
so
you. Yeah, I was gonna go that direction. Yeah, and in all of our first responders, you have male and females that are, intermingled because we want equality.
right,
And how do you get equality? You if you want to be treated like a man in an industry, you have to be as strong, as devoted, and as cutthroat as the men in that industry.
right.
And unfortunately, for some women that get into that authoritative position, they use sex as a weapon.
Well, and it is, easy to use it's I mean, for men and women. I mean, men use it to manipulate women all the time in the dating field.
Oh, absolutely.
And I
In
mean,
the
it's
LGBTQ as well.
yeah, it's a weapon across the board.
Mhm.
People use it cuz that intimacy is I mean, it's a fundamental need. And
Yeah,
not as extreme as air and water and food, but that intimacy is a fundamental need. We would die without it.
right. It is it's on what is it, Laszlo's chart of
Mhm.
uh hierarchy.
Right.
It is a psychological need.
Right.
And it is true that unfortunately some people will go after it in the absolute wrong way.
Or I don't even think that they're going after it. I think that they understand that and they're going into situations where people are starved of it and using that to take advantage.
Yeah, there you go. That's their checkmate in
Mhm.
in the intimacy game. That's their checkmate. And again, and this is where we're going to go, if they are in a position of authority, even if it's teachers, coaches, supervisors, movie producers, directors, talent agents, anybody that has the ability to shape or change somebody else's life is gonna always have that foot up on most of us.
Right, right. That's what makes it hard because you can never know someone's true intentions with you.
No, no, you don't. And it's unfortunate when that need for power and control completely shapes a young life. So, we're going to talk about hemophilias, hemophiliacs. A pedophile is a person that is attracted sexually to prepubescent adolescents. So these are our children from, they can be from infancy to 10 years old. It is usually before
They start developing, right?
the secondary sexual characteristics. A hebephilia is the attraction to adolescents who are beginning to develop secondary sexual characteristics, usually between the ages of 11 and 16. Um, these are teachers, coaches, and actually, as we talked about teachers in episode 2, In this one, we're going to actually talk about um, other women that were in authoritative positions who pursued minors for their own sexual gratification. Um, so the first one is actually one that's going on right now. And it is Louisiana Mayor Misty Roberts Clayton has just recently taken a leave of absence from her second term. Um, and she left in the middle of some, which it's now has been substantiated accusations. So, what happened is two 13-year-old boys who were friends,
Mhm.
who were of low income families from the same neighborhood, decided to tell their parents what was happening. Um, this mayor, this Misty, purchased alcohol on numerous occasions, offered it to each one of these boys at different times. And after getting them intoxicated, drunk, she had sexual intercourse with them. And both of them were 13.
Ugh.
And she did this on numerous occasions. And she took that leave of absence when people came forward. Our legal system got involved. And she says they're only rumors. But let me ask you your opinion, Lav, and party people listening. If somebody was spreading a rumor about you that wasn't true, would you leave your high powered, high paying job? Or would you stick it out? Because I got to be
Um,
real honest. If somebody is spreading lies and I can prove their lies, you're going to have to take me down brick by brick.
I think I think because she's a mayor that it's probably somebody on the political side saying it doesn't matter if it's true or false, you have to step down. Because
Oh,
that's rumors against the entire like political system at that point. And but if it was somebody like a CEO of a company or something, then
yeah.
if it wasn't true, then I wouldn't expect them to step down. But I don't think in her position as the mayor, there's probably people in the background forcing her to take actions and do certain things at this point. So I don't know
Yeah.
how much of that is.
I didn't consider that. So I'm glad that you went that direction because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're right. The probably Senate,
Mhm.
Congress, her local
Right,
other conspicuous were probably saying, "Hey," and the fact that they've been substantiated
right.
because they have the surveillance cameras from the liquor stores.
Oh,
They
that they were
have,
with the kids?
yeah,
Oh, well, then
yes,
she's guilty.
they have her on tape, on camera, walking out of
She's
the liquor store
she's
with
already, like, guilty. Perception is reality, like,
with her
you know
accusers.
yeah, and
And on top of it, they have records from the motel
ugh,
she took these kids to.
yeah, no. And, and I've had this talk with ex-boyfriends and stuff, like, it doesn't matter if if anything truly happened or not. Perception is reality.
Yeah.
Your intention doing something, like in her case, your intention of going to the liquor store with these adolescents, buying alcohol and taking them to a hotel room, just in that is wrong.
Right. And even if it was just you took them there so
Just
they
that
could
and
part,
nothing else happened. That is
yeah,
that even that's enough. That is
and
wrong.
they party and be safe, air
Right.
quotes. Yeah. Just you might as well put the noose around your neck.
Right. Even without the sexual assaults, that's still uncalled for.
Yeah, well, and also too, it's it's guilt by association.
Mhm. Well, and perception, like I said, perception is reality.
Yeah.
If you're doing things that make it seem like you're doing, like if you're doing some of the steps, then the perception is that you're completing everything. You're not just going to stop halfway through the
Mhm.
process of something and call it quits and be like, I was going to rape today, but I made it to the hotel and I'm done.
And I decided not to.
Right. No.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
My grandma taught us that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Nope.
Um, yeah, wow. Um, so the second one, um, it infuriated me, and I know when I relay it to you, it's gonna same thing. It's gonna infuriate you as well. Um, sorry, guys, send my son a text message, and I can't talk and text at the same time because I don't know why.
Her brain
I,
doesn't
I
function
can't. I
very
can't
well.
walk and text either.
Hmm.
Nope. Um,
I think I have to stop when I'm walking too to text.
I'll fall and run into something.
Yeah.
Um, so the next one is it's a she's a TV and radio executive and was a TV personality. Of course, she is no longer these things. Um, but her name is Julie Wadsworth, and she's in prison.
Oh, good.
She was arrested and charged with luring and raping 9 boys between the ages of 11 and 15. She would engage in sex both in public and at home. Here's the infuriating part, while her husband played lookout. Not only did he play lookout, you dirty bastard, but he helped lure these boys because
Bonnie and Clyde.
they did what killer couples do is they made them feel safe because they were a loving married wealthy couple.
I how would you even have that conversation? Hey babe, I'm really attracted to kids. You think we can get a third in here? You know, like age 11.
You know what I think it is? Same thing like when we were talking about Lavina Johnson. He was a house husband.
Mm,
And I would bet the farm that she basically said, "Look, I am responsible financially for everything you get to do and have. I want this, and you're going to make it happen, or I'll find somebody else who will."
hmm.
If she's using power and control in a sexual way for these to get these kids,
Right.
she's doing it with him too. And
Right.
he was spineless and went along with it
Right. Yeah.
because a true good human would have been like, I'll live on welfare. I don't care. I'm not doing this and I'm going to turn you in for it.
I mean, he could have even made an anonymous tip.
Yeah, kept his name out of it.
Right. You know, I don't- I think there was some sort of sexual gratification for in it for him.
It had to be.
Yeah, there's no way if this like if hers is about power, then his is something else because he's not gaining any power from it. But there's too many easy outs for him
Hmm.
to have not taken any of them.
Look at our Canadian teacher that had sex with her student and was caught. But right before she was caught, she filed for divorce from her husband, who was also a teacher, because he was having sex with a 15-year-old girl.
Mm,
So they were both hebephilias or hebephiliacs. They just ended up married together. They ended up married to each other, but they both preferred kids. And she had the audacity to be like, well, I'm not going to be married to a pedophile, to a hebephile, but you're doing the same thing.
right. That I feel like that definitely was a an action to take the heat off of her.
Had to have been. Had to have been. Um, this one angers me. Gemma Barker was arrested while in the act of
Oh,
raping a teenage boy in an alleyway uh, in Great Britain. She was dressed as a teenage boy. She lured 12 and 13-year-old boys, and they estimate the number to be higher than 10 to 15 of them.
jeez.
She pretended, because she was petite and short and not she didn't have the like you and I, we have the pronounced feminine qualities. We our breasts show, we have hips.
Right.
We look like women. She didn't look, she was very small breasted. She had an athletic build. She did not look feminine. So she would pretend to be an older boy, 15, 16, and would go into chat rooms and other and games. She would go and play. She'd go do computer games, do gaming,
Right.
and then she would tell them like, "Hey, why don't you come and meet me, and I'll give you a copy of this game. Um, I'll give you like gift cards, so you get Steam cards is what
Mhm.
they are, so you can buy, you
Right.
know, perks in the game." And then they would get there and she would rape them. And when she was caught, she was taken to the police station. She still swore she was a 16-year-old boy until they put her in a a room, an isolated room with two female and one male officer, and told her that she is going to be strip searched. That she admitted to being a 20, I want to say it was like 5 or 6, uh,
Damn.
in her mid 20s. How dare you?
Right. Trying to play off as still being a boy.
And a teenage one at that. And you know what, sweetheart? I don't know what you were thinking in your diseased mind, but even if you were a 16-year-old boy, you're still raping other boys. You're still a rapist. You're still a
Right.
piece of shit.
There that one just screams some sort of mental illness.
Yeah. And that goes beyond trauma, because yet, yes, there are a percentage of sexual abuse survivors that do go on and perpetrate. And it's unfortunate. And these are usually the ones that have not dealt with their trauma.
Mhm.
Um, and it's unfortunate that their sense of self and sexuality and sense of love has become distorted by somebody doing that to them, and it's
Right.
the only way they know. um Maybe this happened, but I have no, we can feel bad for the child, as Tracy and Samantha says, we love you guys. You can feel bad for the child and still be angry at the adult, because as a child it's done to you. As an adult, you're doing it to somebody else.
Mhm.
um this one is going to bring the anger out in every parent that listens to us. A New Hampshire attorney by the name of Lisa Byron sold photos and videos of her adolescent daughter, advertising her on the dark web for sex. She was arrested in Canada while filming an adult man having sexual intercourse with her 13-year-old daughter.
Ugh.
She had drugged her daughter with Rohypnol, date rape drug,
Right.
and he had paid her over $10,000.
Damn.
I hope in that little dark room in prison where you're at, Lisa, I hope you are treated horribly.
Well, I mean, it's a blessed place to get it, cuz in prison they don't like any sort of child abuse or anything like that. They're gonna.
No, and
I'd be very
especially,
surprised if she survives.
right. And I started saying, especially in a women's prison, because what, statistically 80 to 90% of the population are mothers,
Mhm.
and
And
they're
there's
not in there.
yeah, and so what? It's like 2% or 3% are women sexually assault
Yeah,
offenders.
yeah, they're sexual predators.
Yeah, the
um
number is very small, but I mean that's just because it's not as reported. So who knows what the actual number is?
because a lot, because I hate to say it, uh because it may shine a dark light on our corrections officers, but when you have sex offenders that come through, um, they're not supposed to relay their offenses.
Mhm.
So it is the commanding officer, the officer that's in charge, the sergeant, lieutenant, whatever
Right.
rank, reads their jacket and keeps it to themselves.
Right.
Um, but we do have that very small percentage that believes in an eye for an eye. And when that offender is put in general population, it gets whispered around what
Well,
they did.
I mean it's not really that hard to for that information to get out and around. I mean, in my job, well, I get the files from jail, so I know what their offenses are.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to relay that to, I mean, because some rehab places won't take you if you have assault or rape or arson or anything like that. So,
And I don't even feel bad about that. I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't feel bad about that. If you're a sex offender, and especially if you've offended against kids, you need to be with other offenders that are just like you.
right. Well, and for the, I mean, for the most part, like that, like any sort of sexual assault against children or child abuse or anything, they don't even, like, it's not even a question of whether they can come into the program or not. Like, they're just kind of like, no, you don't qualify. Even, they probably do qualify, but that's not, I mean, just I mean, even on our end, we're kind of like, I don't want to be alone with a rapist. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, it's totally understandable. Um, the next one is her name is Andrea Clevenger,
hmm,
and
that name
she,
sounds familiar.
well, it may sound familiar to quite a few people because she was on the reality show about competitive cheer moms from a gym
Oh.
called Cheer Time Revolution. And while she was filming, and there were a couple episodes that got released before it was taken off the air because they didn't know um, that she was actually sexually assaulting an 11-year-old boy
Mm,
that was one of the competitive cheerleaders from the gym.
wow.
Um, and so as soon as she was arrested, they pulled every episode that she was in.
Oh.
And um, when they tried to refilm um, without her there, the production company said, we're not putting money into that.
Ugh.
You kiss your show goodbye. You should have done better checks. But I don't agree with that because how would a production manager know? I mean, obviously, if he knew or she knew, then you would tell the police, I would think. You sure the hell wouldn't put them on fucking TV.
Right.
Um, sorry, just a minute. You're low. Sorry. Um, I'll edit this out, but I'll put it like with our bloopers and stuff. And my family doesn't realize that when I'm recording, I don't want to know what's going on in their day. And if it, unless it's an emergency, I don't want you to
Right.
call me. So,
So
um,
you can
so
continue. I
yeah,
don't know what
so
I was
the
gonna say.
um, it'll come back to you. So not all perpetrators, um, not all hebophiles perpetrate against young boys. Sometimes they choose young girls as well, and sometimes they choose a combination. A lot of hebophiles, because they're in a position of admiration, a position of respect, a position of authority. Um, at first, their survivors, when they come forward, are not believed, and sometimes it takes quite a bit of reiteration, of continuously telling your story before somebody perks up and pays attention.
There's
Um,
that one, I think it's on Netflix, and it's a woman that gets raped, and she goes to the police and reports it, and they basically tell her she's lying. And then
yes,
the rapist, he keeps raping people, and then after a while they're like, "Oh, so you really
yes.
were raped."
Hmm. And that's the hard part in this, because especially when you have an authoritative a person in an authority,
Mhm.
it's easy for but the police or whomever to say, hey, we don't think this is happening. I mean, you're a mayor, you're an attorney,
Right.
you're a movie producer, you're an
Right.
actor. Um, yeah, it's
There was a
sad.
there was a case here, um, actually, that March 1st is when they arrested him. He his name is Stephen Hardman, and he lives here around me, and he was arrested for, they don't have any, I don't know if it was boys or girls or really ages, but he was arrested for sexual assault of two reported victims, sexual abuse of a minor, 2 counts of second degree rape, and several other offenses. He is a martial arts instructor.
Yeah. Yep. Um, there you go. He's in a position of power. He's in a position of authority, and it was easy and admiration. I'm sure his survivors, his victims, admired him. So when he started grooming them, it wasn't seen as this horrific act. It was probably like myself. You felt honored
Right.
because somebody you respected was paying attention to you in a way they weren't paying attention to everybody else.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
They probably felt good, like, oh, the instructor loves, the instructor and me are an item.
And that actually leads us right into our next perpetrator. Um, Anybody who is a sports fan, soccer, rugby, American football, may possibly know the name Rion Noakes.
No idea.
Rion is a Welsh rugby star. She was one of
Oh,
the top
okay.
female
Okay.
rugby players.
Trekking. I was like, oh man, rugby guys. Those guys are great. That's where my head was going.
Yeah, no, it's a chick.
Probably looks a lot like a rugby guy, though.
Actually, she's very feminine looking. I
Oh,
looked her up because I was actually, let me I'll find pictures. I'll put pictures with this. Um but she was a rugby star, and then she became a coach.
okay. Makes sense.
And as a professional which, yeah, as a professional coach, um she of course was paid to coach, junior rugby teams and also adult rugby teams. But she would coach low income
Mm,
children
okay.
for free.
Oh.
And unfortunately, why do a lot of our predators choose low income children?
Actually, there is psychology behind that.
Hmm.
And most low income families are single parent. Most of them are working two jobs, which means the kids are forced to be self sufficient. And
Hmm.
in that sort of situation, children don't trust their adults. They don't think that the adults in their life are going to be there for them because they're always gone. So it's easy to manipulate them being present, being that constant figure in a child like this life.
Yeah.
It's easy to
Substance abuse.
manipulate them.
Substance abuse. A lot of low income parents are, maybe one parent is in jail
Mm-hmm.
and the other is strung out. And then you have this superstar who's been on TV, who is respected, who's teaching you to play rugby,
Right. Teaching you to kick some ass.
and then says to you, I want to teach you other things. Um, she was convicted of an ongoing sexual relationship that started with a girl at 12 years old. And when they caught her, the girl was now 15. Um, but this is the part that pisses me off even
Mm-hmm.
more than the sexual abuse. When she was being tried, her lawyers presented a case of terminal brain injury. They said that she had a terminal brain tumor, and this altered her impulse control and her ability to make rational and reasonable decisions.
Okay.
The only problem with that is Rian has never been diagnosed, never has been treated for anything even more serious than a slight migraine.
Hmm.
In fact, her last pre employment physical that happened the same year she was arrested pinned her at perfect health.
Mm.
Absolute perfect health. If you are so incapacitated by a brain tumor that you cannot make rational decisions or control your impulses, what the fuck are you doing coaching rugby?
Well, and I mean, well, if like, where's the treatment? Like, how do you even have the? I don't know. How, like, if that's not your personality, I guess what my mind is going is if it really was a brain tumor, like, I feel like I would still be like, wait a second, I've never been attracted to kids before.
And
Something's wrong, you know?
and different case studies I that I've been a part of, that I've read about, and I especially read up on it because of this bullshit. Um, when it comes to the impulse control or the rationale that a brain tumor can bring, it's things like stopping themselves when they're eating, as they're eating, when they've become full. They impulsively cannot stop eating, so they eat until they regurgitate. They drink alcohol when they've never been alcoholics. They drink uncontrollably. They make bad sexual decisions with other adults.
Well, and there those sexual decisions would be like, you know,
Cheating on their partner.
or having sex in public, or something like that, something
Having
completely
multiple partners.
irrational, but she had the wherewithal to hide it.
Mhm. Yeah. And when she was arrested, at no point was there that moment of clarity. It was just, you're arrested in a hotel with a 15-year-old kid and you're denying that anything sexual happened. Now, who do you think is stupid in that situation, dude? Come on.
Right.
Um, and it's not just our legal system. It's not just our athletic department. Um, it's in our faith.
Well, we all knew
As
that.
yeah, um, and in this next case, it's not just our. It's not just some priests and some, um, well, deacons, religious, um, but mostly priests
Mhm.
that are sexually assaulting boys and girls. This one is about a Catholic school principal and also a nun by the name of Sister Elaine. Um, Sister Elaine, as the principal in the all girls Catholic school, would go into the classrooms and had her selected um, victims, and she would take them out of class at the beginning of roll call, take them to hotels, and sexually assault them,
Right.
and then bring them back in time for dismissal. And nobody questioned it because she's a nun, she's not a man, and everybody came back happy. Nobody was scared until she chose Patricia Cahill. Um, Patricia reported Sister Elaine, and she was shamed by the archdiocese into being quiet.
That does not surprise me at all.
Um, but unfortunately, it wasn't just Sister Elaine. It was also Patricia's uncle, who was the and her. Okay, look, you can be no. You went from hair up to hair down. No,
You were reading, you didn't even notice.
no, I didn't until I looked up. I'm like, the fuck is she doing? That's not right. We're talking about sexual assault. She's fixing her hair. I'm going to pretend I didn't see that
Right.
as a gay woman.
Going back
That's
to
not any better. Just quit. That one's okay.